That's exactly what happened 3 days before my wedding, standing in the grand lobby of the River Oaks estate, watching my stepmother Patricia's expression morph from smug certainty to sheer horror, as she realized just how badly she'd miscalculated. But to really understand, we need to rewind a bit. I'm Alexandra Taylor. Friends call me Alex. To Patricia, I was always that difficult child. At 32, I manage a real estate portfolio left to me by my grandmother, something very few people actually know. I live a modest life downtown and prefer it that way. I'd rather build something of my own than coast on old money. Patricia married my dad when I was 12, just 2 years after my mom passed away from breast cancer. She swept in like a hurricane, designer heels, perfect blowout, and that ever-present air of polite disdain. Everything needed to be improved. Our house, our manners, me. Alexandra, dear, she'd say, lips pursed in subtle disappointment, you'll never be taken seriously if you don't present yourself properly. Whether it was my career, real estate instead of law, my wardrobe, professional, not designer, or even my naturally curly hair, not chemically straightened like hers, I was always a project that wasn't quite finished. My father, unfortunately, was no help. He'd retreat to his study when things got tense, leaving me to navigate Patricia's passive-aggressive jabs alone. When my half-sister Melody was born, things got worse. She was Patricia's golden child, compliant, polished, and effortlessly perfect. The model daughter. Where I pushed back, Melody obeyed. Even her engagement followed Patricia's script. She was set to marry the son of one of Patricia's country club besties. I kept my distance over the years. Holidays, the odd Sunday dinner. But when I got engaged to Nathan, a brilliant software engineer who built his own tech company, I knew the peace wouldn't last. A small wedding would be best, Patricia declared over dinner one evening, not even looking up from her salad. Nothing too extravagant. We wouldn't want to overshadow Melody's big day. Nathan and I exchanged a look. We'd been planning our wedding for months. An elegant, intimate celebration at River Oaks Estate, a historic property I quietly purchased and restored the year before. Patricia, of course, had no idea. Actually, I said, sipping water to hide my grin, we've already booked our venue. River Oaks. This Saturday. Patricia's fork clattered onto her plate. That's impossible, she snapped. River Oaks is booked for years. I tried to reserve it for Melody, they said no. I shrugged. We got lucky. And that's when the sabotage campaign began. It started with messages, calls, texts, Patricia insisting we talk about the wedding. When I ignored her, she escalated, showing up unannounced at my office, ambushing me in the parking lot. You're stealing Melody's thunder, she said, as if I'd personally set fire to her dreams. She's always wanted a River Oaks wedding. Interesting, I said. She didn't even know the place existed until last year. How can you do this to your sister? Half-sister, I corrected, and instantly regretted it. Patricia's face went cold. Exactly my point. You've never accepted Melody. You're still that angry little girl, jealous of anyone who shares your father's attention. Classic Patricia, finding the old wounds and pressing on them just enough to make them sting. Then things escalated. Someone called our vendors pretending to be my planner, canceling everything. Thankfully, I'd warned everyone in advance. No changes without my written confirmation. Then came the anonymous packages, wedding planning guides, self-help books, therapy pamphlets, all with a theme: how to manage your emotions. A not-so-subtle attempt to build a narrative that I was unstable. Finally, James, the estate's manager, called. Miss Taylor, he said. His voice clipped. A woman claiming to be your stepmother called. She's demanding your reservation be canceled. Said you're mentally unstable and she's concerned for everyone's safety. She's threatening to involve the police. I took a deep breath. Let me guess. She's on her way now? Yes. Good, I said. Here's what we're going to do. 20 minutes later, I was tucked behind the security feed at River Oaks, watching Patricia step out of her silver Mercedes like she owned the place, heels clicking, designer bag swinging. She strutted into the lobby, straight to the front desk. I'm Patricia Montgomery, she announced, placing her bag down. I called earlier to cancel Alexandra Taylor's wedding. I have documentation regarding her mental state. James, bless him, played his part beautifully. Yes, Mrs. Montgomery. We've been expecting you. But There seems to be some confusion. There's no confusion, Patricia cut in. I'm Alexandra's stepmother, and she is not fit to be getting married. Well, James said slowly, we can't cancel the event. Because this venue belongs to Miss Taylor. Silence. Patricia froze. Her face cycled through disbelief, confusion, and finally realization. That's when I stepped out from the office. Hello, Patricia, I said calmly. We need to talk. She swayed slightly. This is your property. Surprised. I kept my voice even. I've owned River Oaks for over a year. I restored it. Turned it into the exclusive venue you couldn't get for Melody. She gripped the counter. You couldn't possibly afford this. My grandmother's inheritance, I said. The one you said I was too immature to manage. Turns out I'm actually quite good at it. Her face paled. I have documentation. You mean the trail of evidence you've been creating? I held up my phone, flipping through screenshots, canceled vendor calls, anonymous gifts, fake emails to my planner. I learned from you, Patricia. Document everything, right? James brought over a thick folder. We also have records of every call, email, and false claim you've made. I was only trying to protect the family image, she whispered, voice barely audible. My behavior's the problem? I laughed, no humor in it. Let's talk about yours. 3 days before my wedding, I watched Patricia's perfectly composed face unravel in real time. We stood in the marble lobby of River Oaks estate, my estate, as she realized just how completely her scheme had failed. But that moment, that was just the crescendo. Let's rewind. Patricia spent 20 years trying to erase my mother's memory from our lives. She redecorated the house to wipe away any trace of her, manipulated my father into emotional distance, spun tales that painted me as the unstable, jealous daughter clinging to the past. And worst of all, she turned my half-sister Melody against me, weaving a web of lies so subtle that even I began to question my own reality. And now she stood in front of me, stunned. Pale. Patricia, I said quietly, let's talk about those 20 years. The years you spent isolating me, gaslighting me, making sure everyone saw your version of me. That's not true, she said, but the words were thin, deflated even as they left her lips. I pulled out my phone and tapped a button. Her own voice filled the lobby. Alexandra has always been jealous of Melody. She's unstable, angry. I'm worried she might try to ruin the wedding out of spite. The color drained from her face. The recording was from last week, a conversation she'd had with Melody's future mother-in-law at the country club. What Patricia didn't know was that Mrs. Bradford, appalled by what she heard, had recorded the entire thing and sent it to me. I have more, I said, meeting her eyes. 20 years' worth. Every underhanded dig, every manipulative whisper. I documented everything. Just like you always told us, remember? Always keep receipts. She straightened, clinging to the last threads of control. What do you want? Money. Recognition. I let out a shaky breath. I want you to stop. I want you to understand that you can't manipulate everyone forever. And if you ever try to interfere in my life again, this wedding, my career, anything, then all of this goes public. I let the silence hang before adding, how do you think that will affect your precious family image? You wouldn't dare, she hissed. But there was fear in her eyes now. Real fear. I think what you're really afraid of, I said softly, is that Dad will finally see you for who you are. And as if on cue, the doors behind us opened. My father stepped into the lobby. Patricia turned, startled. Her mask crumbled. Robert, she gasped. What are you doing here? He looked older, sadder. His voice was quiet but firm. Caroline Bradford called me. Said she was concerned about what you said to her. About Alex. Patricia started to speak, but he raised a hand. Don't. I've heard enough. He turned to me, eyes full of regret. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I should have seen it sooner. My throat tightened. Dad! He stepped closer. Your mother would be so proud of you. Of this place. What you've built. Patricia stiffened. You can't possibly believe. I believe I was blind, he said, cutting her off. Because it was easier than facing the truth. But that ends now. He looked at me again, voice cracking. If you'll let me, I'd still be honored to walk you down the aisle. I nodded, too choked up to speak. Then he turned to Patricia. As for you, we'll be discussing our future when I get home. If we have one. Patricia fled. Her heels clicked furiously across the lobby. A moment later, we saw her silver Mercedes tear out of the parking lot, tires squealing. The wedding went on as planned. That Saturday, River Oaks Estate glowed with candlelight and laughter, filled with people who genuinely loved Nathan and me. Melody came, quiet and thoughtful. She hugged me before the ceremony and whispered, "I'm so sorry." Dad walked me down the aisle, tears shining in both our eyes. I saw the empty seat in the front row and felt, for the first time, relief at someone's absence. Patricia's presence had always taken up too much space. Her absence was like a breath of fresh air. Later that night, I slipped away to the rooftop terrace, my favorite place. The city shimmered beneath me, and I felt free. Nathan found me there, wrapping his arms around me. "You okay?" he asked. I leaned into him. For the first time in 20 years, I think I really am. 2 weeks later, Dad moved out. 6 months after that, the divorce was finalized. Patricia got her financial settlement, but she lost what she cared about most, control over the narrative. Melody got married the next spring, not at River Oaks, but on a quiet beach. Her own choice, her own voice. As for me, I still run the estate. I help others celebrate their beginnings, their victories, their peace. Sometimes, late at night, I walk the halls and remember how it felt to finally stand tall after so many years of being pushed down. There's a new plaque in the garden now, next to a wild, blooming rose bush, the same kind my mother loved. In memory of Elizabeth Taylor. She taught her daughter that strength is not in control, but in truth. Patricia still drives by sometimes. I hear she tells people she let me have the estate, that it was her idea all along. That's fine. We both know the truth. Just last week, a young bride toured the estate with me. Nervous, struggling with a controlling mother-in-law. I smiled and shared what took me years to learn. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't in winning the battle. It's in choosing the right ones. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply living well. She smiled, stood a little taller. That's the real legacy of River Oaks. It's not just a wedding venue. It's a place where people find their voice, their strength, their truth. Where facades crumble, and something beautiful finally blooms. Just like my mother always said, and like Patricia never understood. True class isn't controlling the narrative. It's not needing to.